Hi folks, hope you're all well out there still. Today's video is going to be about something called Grocy, and if you're not familiar with it, it's a web-based self-hosted groceries and household management solution for your home. So if you've ever had that problem that you've taken food out of a pantry and found it expired a week ago, or something like, say, even I'm using it for a first aid kit. You want to take some medicine out or something else out of your first aid kit and found it expired a year ago, which is actually what happened to me. Or things like rechargeable batteries or whatever the case you need to keep track of. I'm going to go through some of what it shows on the website and the user interface and so on as usual, but I thought maybe I'll just do this slide quickly to show very briefly some of the functionality you'll immediately get. So typically things that many are used to, things like shopping lists, including syncing with your mobile device. So you'll be able to add items to a shopping list, tick them off as bought, and they'll be added to things like your inventory with expiry dates and price tracking. Then you've also got things like food recipes, which will link with whether you've got the items in your inventory or whether you need to add it to your shopping list, which can be added automatically. Things like meal plans by day, which will be based on things like your recipes and your ingredients that you've got. Sharing of chores and task management, which goes to a calendar, shows each person what they need to do every day. I've already mentioned things like batteries. So if you've got rechargeable batteries in a number of different devices, like I've got from a weather station to the TV's wireless keyboard that it uses, a wireless mouse, whatever the case is, you can keep track of those as well. And also things like equipment manuals and notes. So your washing machine, your weather station, your whatever, you can have all the notes on hand and manuals for each device. Now, I should just say here, my wife wasn't very impressed when I came and told her all the things we could do on Grocy. She basically had a fit. So some people like to keep track of everything they've got on hand, what they're buying, what they're using, price tracking, all that sort of thing. Others, not so much. So obviously, if you're in the latter category, then maybe Grocy's not going to be for you. But I can also just add that you can use one of any of these or more of them. So I've noticed also some people commented to me before they're just using Grocy for their shopping list management. They're not doing the inventory, price tracking, recipes, or anything else. So think of this as if any of these are useful to you, Grocy could be something you maybe want to have a look at. Or you can also use, more than one of these if you feel that you want to do so, because it can be fairly complex to set some of it up depending on how deep you go. So I think let's just have a look at the website and options for installation next. So this is Grocy's main website, and you'll see it's at https://grocy.info. As they say here, it is an open source product, and we'll have a look when I've finished with the website. We'll just quickly look at the open source website as well. You've got options to download. You can also, if you'd like to play with it without installing it, you can click here also for the demo site, and that is actually quite a nice way just to play around with a little bit and get the feel of it if you want to use it yourself. There's obviously links to changelog and install guide, and there's the link to the source code on Github. It's got an integration with Home Assistant as well. So for those of you that are already managing your various sensors and devices around the house, Grocy integrates actually into Home Assistant as well. So that could be of interest. There is also if installing it on a server and everything is a bit daunting to you, you can actually install it also as a Windows desktop app. You can even go as far as granting external access to that, but that's probably not really recommended. Alternatively, you're going to install this on something like a Raspberry Pi or a NAS server or some other little device inside the house and run it sort of as a server implementation. I've got mine running on Docker inside the house, and that was a very, very easy installation. But if you've got hosting somewhere online, like a VPS somewhere, a Linux VPS running, say, cPanel, there's an option also I see to install Grocy inside cPanel. So you've really got a lot of easy options, to install it. Then, as I also briefly mentioned, some mobile apps for Android. Actually, it's got for iOS as well. I'm not sure why this one's only showing Android, but both iOS and Android. These are some community contribution apps as well. So Pantry Party, for example, is not directly supplied by Grocy, but it's a sort of an aftermarket community contribution, should I say, really. There's the mobile app actually for iOS. And there's also Barcode Buddy and so on. But it has got barcode functionality built in already, so you can use it to scan, your items into inventory or shopping. They have also got a Reddit group, which you can get hold of them on. And then also you can log your issues or read through the issues on GitHub as well. So the type of functionality you've got is tracking your purchases. Now, the barcodes, from what I could see here, really is if I scan a barcode in, it'll use my webcam or my phone or whatever the case is. It works very nicely. If it doesn't have the item in the inventory, so initially you're going to have to set up probably a lot of your regularly bought items if you want to use the barcode scanning, then it'll prompt you and you can fill in the details. And I'll show you just now what that sort of looks like. So that'll be how you track your purchases. If it matches the barcode, it already matches the item you've got and it can just add it to your inventory. Then you can obviously optimize the shopping list. It does track things like, well, you can set your minimum stock amounts of the various products you've got, how they expire, all that sort of thing. And you'll know basically also at any time what you've got at home. Now, this is obviously the part that's very difficult to keep track of. You have to be quite sort of disciplined to keep track of everything you're using out of your pantry or your inventory. It's probably the most, shall I say, difficult part, but once you've, I suppose, got into the swing of it, you'll probably be okay. But if you've got 5 members of your family all grabbing packets of chips and other things out of the cupboard, well, that's going to be interesting. Obviously, wastage is largely sorted out because you can at any time get a very good view of your inventory, what's due and when it's expiring. You can adjust your recipes or your meal plans also to make use of that food that's about to expire. So, from that sort of perspective, very, very useful. There's nothing worse than, digging a tin out the back and it's expired 3 years ago. Then these are some of the forms for the input, which I'll show again. Recipes. So the recipes, you basically will set up a recipe and tell it what items are going to be used for it. And obviously it's going to be able to tell you whether you've got the items on hand or add my missing items to the shopping list for me. Suppose who uses a cookbook nowadays. So inside here you can basically put all your different recipes with instructions and that sort of thing. This is the meal planning part. I haven't really used this. This is something I haven't really used much, but you can plan your daily meals and you'll see them on a per day basis, and obviously your inventory and your shopping lists are going to keep everything stocked up and ready for you to prepare those meals. Then managing equipment and devices, we've talked a bit about already. Tracking of household chores. So yeah, this can be quite interesting. There's various ways of dividing up the chores, based on per time, amount of effort, that sort of thing. So very nice way of just showing who has to do what for the week and when they have to do it and that sort of thing. Then just keeping track of tasks, basically to-do list and so on as well. Battery management is becoming quite a big thing nowadays. Nothing worse than, this sort of helps you predict sort of more or less when you expect your batteries to run down, and you can recharge them in time. I've got a weather station, for example, where the batteries last 2 years. So now when am I going to remember that battery is sort of coming up for its expiry date? This is a very handy way of doing it. You can also add custom fields and objects and lists as well. So, what you're getting here is the basics, but just bear in mind you can actually expand it quite a bit further yourself. It's got a built-in night mode. It's made for various devices. If all else fails, you've still got the web-based view. What's a nice idea for this, for repurposing any of your old tablets, for example, is you could have a tablet that you can attach or mount on, say, a fridge or on your desk or your countertop in the kitchen, and permanently have Grocy running on it. And that's a great way of checking what's in inventory, ticking off, adding things to the shopping list, that sort of thing. And yes, it's got an API as well, so you can integrate to it from third-party applications. A nice feature to see is it literally is evolving and being expanded on a daily basis, and we'll have a quick look at that on the source code side as well. So let's just go and have a look at that source code. So this is their GitHub site. I see there's 129 open issues. But what you'll notice is look at the updates. 8 days ago, 4 days ago, 6 days ago, 4 days, a whole bunch of stuff of 3 and 5 days ago. So it is being very actively updated, which is always a very, very good sign. They've obviously got the instructions below there as well. There's the links to the demo sites to test it out. Instructions how to install. Docker, as I said, it was very, very quick. I did a very quick Docker installation. And there is some localization options. So, for example, this is the only time you might have to go into the code. I'm not sure why they didn't put this in the menu setup, but things like setting the currency, I did just have to go in there once to this config file and go and set that for my local currency. And there's a couple of other options like day of the first day of the week, that sort of thing. There's the API. And then also migrating database. Just remember what you can do here is you can always export, save your entire application's data, and you can import it into the application elsewhere if you're making use of it. So that's really the site. I think let's go and have a look at the application itself. So this is the application now running on my server at home. And what you're seeing here is the web browser view. So this will be typically as you log in, this is the view you're first going to see, a stock overview. And there's a couple of products that are in my inventory at the moment. It tells me how much I've got. So obviously I don't have any chicken skinless, and I think it was added to a recipe. That's why it's showing up here. And it also gives an indication of the due dates. Okay, I have not updated this myself. You'll see for a little while ago. For example, the mushroom soup was, I think, a 3 or 4 month expiry date. So it shows you here that I've got 4 packs at the moment that will be expiring in a month's time. So time to make something with mushroom soup. And peas frozen has got 5 months. It's frozen. And you'll see for each item you can consume a pack of it. You can consume all of it that's in stock at the moment, or you can mark a pack of soup as open. It's also got expiries based on when you thawed a product or opened a product. So it's got a specific expiry date for that. So you can have long life milk, for example, that it's got a shelf life of 6 months, for example, but once opened, you should consume within 5 days, for example. Now that is what you'd be able to set up as well for that type of item. And you've obviously got a couple of filters at the top here. You can look at what products were overdue. In other words, I should dispose of these products out of my pantry, due within the next 5 days, and 2 products that are also below the defined minimum stock amount, if you've defined a minimum stock amount, that is. So that's the overview. Then you've got the shopping list. So these are the items that I've currently got on the shopping list. And you can also see notes about the item at the bottom here if you've got any. Okay, I've clicked on mushrooms now, and it's just showing me a summary here of some of the information, like it normally kept in the fridge. It comes by packs of mushroom. I haven't got a value at the moment. Last used, okay, I haven't updated some of this, but there's the idea. These notes are actually just about the shopping list. So you can add notes, say get prepared pineapple if whole not available. There we go. And you can do some formatting as well there. Then obviously on the shopping list, if you're not making use of things like the inventory management and adding for a recipe, you can just directly add an item to the shopping list as well. So I've got 2 typical locations that I shop at. So I keep a shopping list, one for Pick n Pay, which is a general grocery store in South Africa, and the other for Dis-Chem, which is more pharmaceutical type products. So I could say here, Yes, you can of course scan in as well. I've got scan mode off at the moment, but you can click on that and it would, you'll see there's my covered webcam at the moment, and you can also switch between the webcams. You could scan the barcode in if you've got a lot of items already in, but let's see. I could say eggs probably. And what quantity? Oh, okay. It said, yeah, but eggs was not one of the products on my inventory list at the moment. So is it a new product that I'm adding now? Yes, it probably is, because I don't have it. I can add a barcode to an existing product, or I can add as a new product and pre-fill the barcode. I don't actually have a barcode, so I'm just going to say add it as a new product. So if there was a parent product, you could add it here as well. So some items are related to each other. That's what you could actually set up over there, and you could make some notes over here as well. Why is it not letting me save? Oh, that's right, because I haven't filled the rest of the stuff in. Where do I normally store it? Well, these are also user defined, by the way. You'll see I've got things like first aid kit here for things, you know, that I buy at the pharmacy as well. Is it in the freezer, or is it in the fridge, or is it in the cupboard? Okay, I just have the eggs in the cupboard. Which shop do I get it from? It'll add it to that shopping list. Pick and Pay. Minimum stock level. Yes, actually I do want to keep one tray of or one piece of eggs. I'll get to that now. In stock. In other words, when I've got less than that, it'll add it to my shopping list. If it's opened, treat it as out of stock. Well, yes. So what will actually happen is then the moment I started using the one, it'll add it to the shopping list to keep one spare one in stock. So I've got that. And then what type of due date do you have? I can set it as a best before date or an expiration date. So I'll say 30 days. Not sure how long eggs are supposed to keep. You'll see this is the one I was talking about, that if it's something that can be kept long term in a freezer or something else, after it's opened, how many days does it expire? Well, it doesn't really make much difference for eggs. There's the one for after freezing and thawing. Oh, there's the one for thawing. Sorry, the other one was just the default after you've frozen. So this is, in other words, I've come home with an item. I'm now putting it in the freezer, but you should only keep it in that deep freezer for, say, 6 months. Then you could put your 6 months period over there to let you know. You can also mention here that items should not be frozen. So I'll just say eggs should not be frozen. The product group, this is now for the shopping list again. Where about do I find it in the shop? So that when I'm shopping, I can shop in the order, or, you know, grouped by shopping aisle. So I'll just say, well, the eggs are normally closest to the dairy products. It's in a similar queue there. Then what sort of quantity of stock is normally bought? Well, okay, in this case, I'm going to say it's a pack of eggs. And I have just added liters and various other things. I'll show you where to add that just now. But you could also have defined, you know, this is something generic. So you might say 30 packs or something, or you'd have to maybe say there, you know, eggs up there 30. But just bear in mind, if you're partly using it, you also want to track the number of items that you have actually used. In other words, I've used 15 out of my 30 eggs that were left in that tray. So that's where some of this you've got to give a little bit of thought to setting it up. So I would suggest you play around with 1 or 2 items first, experiment using the items and just see that it makes sense for you. So yes, if there's weight handling, stock fulfillment, okay, this is also where you can set energy in kilojoules per quantity of stock, if you're tracking that sort of thing as well. The quick consume amount is if you're just going to grab something out of it and make use of it. So you could even have a jar of peanut butter. And if you do a quick consume, you've maybe set that you use 1/50th of it every time you do a quick consume. And that'll be where you set that over there. Never show the stock on the stock overview. Okay, that's just the other set. And then, of course, you can also put a picture in for the item as well to identify it if you want to when you're on the shopping list and shopping. So I'm just going to save that item. So that was just a raw plain add at the moment. Oh, you can also add a note. Let me just see. I think it was just adding it already as the new item. It's added as a new item. So now I'm going to create the shopping list item. 1 or 2 trays of eggs. It's going to be a pack. This, by the way, once you've set it, it stays. It's the one thing you can't change on an item. So again, give thought about how you set up your items. So you'll see there's eggs now. And if I go look, I've literally just added eggs. So if I go onto the mobile app, you'll see you start also with a stock overview. But if you go to shopping list in the middle at the bottom there, you'll see there's the eggs appeared now on the page over there. And you can go and open it, and you can change, depending on where you're shopping from, what the product is. You can adjust the amount of packs you're going to buy, and you can check any notes that you've made there and the photo. But the important thing is, while you're shopping, if you need to, you could delete an item by swiping left, which you're not really going to want to do. Or you will just swipe right, like that, and it will tick it off. There you go. You'll see it just being ticked off on the shopping list. And we can go back to the website now and see if that has been ticked off. So if we come back to the website, if I click over there on shopping list, you'll see there eggs is now being crossed off. So it was ticked off while I was shopping. So again, somebody at home can add items to the shopping list if they want to, and you should be able to pick it up on your shopping trip as long as you just refresh that page. So that is sort of shopping list. Just one other thing over here, you can add all list items to the stock that are here. That will mean, I suppose, what you've already bought will be added now to the stock inventory, which will be, where is it? Inventory over there. Add products that are below defined minimum stock amount. So that will be adding things to the shopping list that are below the minimum stock amount that you defined. And add all overdue expired products in here as well. So that'll also add to your shopping list so that you can just replace, whatever you've got at home. So that is sort of shopping list. Oh, I see it's also got an option there to print, by the way, for those that want to take it with on paper. Then recipes. I've got 2 recipes defined at the moment, a mince that I make and a chicken a la king. And you'll see it's added one of my custom photos that I took of my own meal that I was preparing. So it's my own photo there. The other thing is, you'll see I've got a serving of 1, what's actually for 2 people. But anyway, so yeah, maybe I should actually have defined that as a serving for 2, in fact, because the quantity I've got here is for 2. You see already it says not enough in stock, 3 ingredients are missing. So it's letting me know. And if I look on the right here, I can already get a rundown and see what I've got enough of, what I don't have enough of, how much I need to use for the recipe. So for example, there are 250 grams of fresh cream. But the great thing is you can scale this up here if you're going to be preparing it for more people. And you'll see it's adjusted the pieces there. In other words, now it's half of 250 grams. Can't remember why I've got it set like that. That was probably to do with the quantity that I use out of a jug of cream. There, for example, for this amount, it's going to be half a pack of mushroom soup, and I've still got enough in stock. And if I go back to 1, you'll see there I use about a quarter pack of mushroom soup. That's probably a better example, and I've got enough in stock. If I had the prices set for my items, which I haven't really done yet, then you will see things like the total cost to prepare this meal, and you will see if you've had the calories set, you'll get the calorie total as well. Then under preparation, there's where I just keep the instructions as to how I prepare my chicken a la king. You can obviously, here at the top, you've got a couple of other options. So remember, you've also got to keep track of what you've used so that you can add it back to your shopping list. So there would be your quick button to say, consume all the ingredients needed by this recipe. Then you will not have to tick off each and every item that you've used individually as you're preparing the meal. The other one is put the missing products on the shopping list. So I could click that, and it's confirming again here that these are the 3 products that I need to add now to the shopping list. But you could even override that if you wanted to, and I'll say yes, add it to the shopping list. Now you'll see on the right hand side, it also says to you 1 already on the shopping list, 2 already on the shopping list. So it's also confirming there for you. And that's just expand to full screen. Again, if you had that tablet in the kitchen counter or something, you could do that to follow your recipe and prepare it. And of course, you can also print it if you want to follow it, by paper. That's the mince one. I haven't got a photo for the mince. So that's really recipes. Here are meal plans. So you could add a note, you could add a product, you could copy this day to next Friday if you want to repeat your meals there. And essentially you're going to be adding one of your recipes for that day. And you will then say on Monday, or Sunday tonight, I'm going to have chicken a la king, and it's going to be one serving of it. I don't know what the section is. And you'd save it. And then this is also something you can print out. So it will basically give you a summary of what you're going to use for the week. And I think, it does give you a summary there, also costs as well as your calories. Then the chore overviews, you're really going to define a couple of chores here, like vacuuming of the house, washing of the clothes, running the dishwasher, and who it's assigned to, when it was last tracked, and next estimated. Just things like the vacuuming is a scheduled thing. You can see we're not actually overdue, we just haven't tracked it. My wife really didn't want to keep track of when she vacuums the house, and that was when this whole plan of mine came to an end, really. So I'd suggest you check with your spouse or partner whether they are excited about tracking things like that. So we could track this for the vacuuming, and okay, we've tracked that, we've done it now for today. So it's only due again in 3 days, and it should appear on Chantal's list. You can, of course, also just filter by whose tasks, especially if it's a long list of tasks or lots of family members. Status, overdue, due soon, that sort of thing. And you've got a couple more filters at the top. If you wanted to edit things like the vacuuming, you could, there's a journal which will obviously show you how often the chore was done, but let's just have a look at editing of a chore to give you an idea. You'd have a description, a name and a description, whether it's active or not, how often is it something that's done hourly, daily, manually, which means you set it for the next thing yourself, monthly, weekly, yearly, or it adapts automatically as to when you've actually have done it in the past. And then you can say which days of the week if it's weekly. This is for if it's a repeating period, the start date, assignment type. Oh, yes, this is actually how it does the assignment as well. It can be randomly assigned. It can be assigned to whoever did it first, or it can be assigned in a rotating alphabetical order to rotate this between people, or it can, like I said, be random, or you manually under a no assignment. It's at the moment it's allocated to my wife. You can track just the date, due date rollover, which means it will shift forward. It won't keep tracking the fact that it's had to be done 3 days ago. And if there's any product to be consumed with it. So you can say, for example, if it's washing, you could have washing powder added, that it uses proportionally amounts of your washing powder up as if this was clothes washing, for example, and you'd set the amount of it over there. So chores can be pretty useful. So that's basically how you set up a chore. Tasks. This was actually to do with, we were busy renovating our kitchen, well, we are actually, and I just set up a couple of tasks to say here who had to do it, the category, in other words, or the project, or whatever it is you can name as a category. So I call it kitchen renovation project. Yeah, it was all due. This has all been done, by the way. And then you can tick off, because we've got the quotes from Ryan already. We got the labor quote already. And we actually also got the butler basin. But that's basically a task list. Like I said, you could filter it by person, different categories or projects, due date, and so on. Then the batteries overview, I'm just tracking 3 at the moment. So the one, for example, is my weather station. Now, it tells me it's used in what, so it's obviously my weather station. When I've got to consider worrying about this battery again, and that'll be next year in September or so. And then I just say also what type of battery, because it's very handy. Instead of me having to climb up here to go check what batteries there are again, I'll know now that they're Energide Lithium Ultimate AA size batteries. So I can just go and buy a couple before that date. And, I know that they're due for replacement. The mouse, I've just said charge today. So you'll see here, for example, the lounge keyboard. was done today, I'd click charged. So that was when it was last charged, and I should remember to charge it again in about 4 days time. So if I said here, well, you can see the summary that one battery is due to be charged within the next 5 days, and it'll show that one. Overdue, none. Oops, let's go back to all. And if the battery had to be charged, so for example, now it can be charged or it could be replacement batteries, whatever you really want to call it. But say, for example, this wireless mouse's battery was to be charged today or replaced today, then all you do is you'd go over there and you just click on track the charge cycle, and you'll see there it's updated as of right now. And it's set the new due date in a month's time over there. So that really is batteries overview. Equipment. So I've got a bunch of devices here that I'm just tracking their manuals for. So for example, at the moment, that's the alarm system's manual. And I can go to, for example, the weather station. And that's the manual for the weather station, on hand and available to anybody in the house that needs to use it. If you click here on notes, you can also have a couple of notes that you've added. So I've just said there also clean it every 3 months. I should have had that on as a repeating task, of course. That would have been a handy place to put it. But that basically is equipment. It's fairly simplistic. It's really just the description, your notes, and you attach the manual. Remember, you can probably add custom fields as well, but by default it's that. The calendar view, it's going to show you whatever you've just been programming. So for example, we're in April now, this is today. You'll see that meal plan that I added the chicken a la king for. It has now appeared also on the calendar. The repeating chore for the vacuuming of the house has appeared for Friday. The battery charging that is due for that lounge's keyboard has also appeared on the calendar. And if you go to next month, there's probably also battery. I need product due over here. Mushroom soup is expiring. I need to make sure I buy more. So that's the calendar view. So very good, very handy again, a complete overview of chores and tasks as well as inventory items. Purchase is, in other words, not using the shopping list. You just want to add things to your inventory. You'd basically come here, and you could, if it's an existing item that you've already had before, you can just select it and say, I want to purchase it. Or of course, you could type a description in, or you could use this to scan the barcode in and then type the description in. And it's sort of, how much do you want? Well, I want to buy 2 packs of mushrooms, for example. It's already packs because that's how I've defined mushrooms. It puts a suggested due date there, which you can override. You can put the price as well, whatever the case is, and it's a pack price or a total price. That is 8 per pack. So in other words, if I was going to buy 2 packs, it's going to be 16. So either ways, that would work with that over there. Which shop am I going to buy it from? It'll go onto the shopping list. And where am I going to store it? Well, by default, yes, it's the fridge. That's what happens there for it. So that really is the purchase. Oh, the other thing I can maybe just show there, I forgot to show it there, but if you are busy purchasing, it also gives you a bit of a rundown on the right-hand side here as to whether there was price history. Let me just choose something else here. Sorry. I think peas I'd added a price to. Frozen peas. You'll see there, last time I bought it, it was at Pick n Pay and it was 39 South African rands. So it'll track, if you do it, down to that level, it's going to track the prices for you over time. Average price, shelf life, spoil rate. These depends on what you've set up for the expiries and so on. So that's really there. Consume would be if you're not, say, using the meal plan and recipes and that sort of thing. You could just use consume to say, I'm going to use some mushroom soup and I'm going to use a pack of mushrooms, and the use could be, it comes out of the cupboard obviously because you could have it stored in multiple places, but you could even say it's spoilt. That's why I'm consuming that pack. In other words, I'm throwing it away. I'm not actually applying it to eat or to, and I would imagine, yes, the spoil rate, it'll show you here over time how often you are throwing away that particular item as spoilt. So it's going to track and tell you after a while, you know what, you keep buying too many apples and you keep throwing apples away. So, if you want to get down to that level, very, very handy is all I can say. I can't remember what the stock item is. Let's just have a look. Oh, open first and in first, out first. Yeah, that's the sort of the rule for if you're throwing items or using items, you expect it to use the oldest item first. But if not, you can also override it over there. And whether it's going to be part of a recipe of not. Oh, I see they can also, this is also where you could mark it as opened and not necessarily as fully consumed. So you've got all those options for consume. The transfer really is just to transfer an item, say from one location, say from the fridge. I'm going to put this into, the cupboard, for example, or the first aid kit. If green peppers is something you use for first aid, then that's how you track again where your items are and where you're using them from. Very useful, of course, because if you've got to do a proper inventory, you sort of know what you've got, how much of where, and where it's expiring. So inventory here, you could just go and check and see frozen peas inventory, and you can adjust the stock amount here as well. So this is another way of, if you're not going to be doing the shopping list and so on, you could just add items here. So remember, you don't have to use all of this. If you just want to track critical expiring items or medicine items or whatever, you can just adjust your stock and your dates and things right here. You don't have to use the whole of the rest of the application. Again, we've seen all this before there. Then the chore tracking, I think, let's have a look at vacuuming. You can see a track time done by, whoops, and, well, it's not me, I'm lying actually. I don't like vacuuming very much. Well, you can skip it, and if you say OK here, it was the same as in that other view where it'll have actually tracked it then as done. I think the chore journal will show you, yes, how often who did what for vacuuming, for example. So that's the chore tracking. Oh. We've got battery tracking. And that's going to be a very similar thing to the chores. You're just going to see, again, if I clicked here, it would say, right, this battery has now been charged or replaced, and you can look at how often it had happened and when in the past. So this will give you a good idea. If you track the first couple of times when it runs flat, you can use that as an estimate to set up the schedule when you want to have your batteries charged or replaced by. Then you've also got the master data. So this is now where you will add certain things like specific products, and you can see you can add a product over there. You can add locations. So this is where you'd add things like your first aid kit, your garden shed, whatever you want to have, places where you're going to have items. You could add your shops. So this will be for your shopping lists. This is where you define your quantity units, packs and pieces. So this is the other thing you need to keep track of. Mushrooms, I must consider whether I want to register it as a pack of mushrooms, and I suspect that pieces could be where it said parent item. You could say the parent item is the pack of mushrooms, and the pieces could be the child items. In other words, I'm going to use 7 or 6 pieces out of that pack. So I think that's how you use it. So this is where you've got to think a little bit, I think. Then just the product groups, I did these basically by typical shopping aisles, just to make my shopping and grouping of my shopping lists easier. The chores you can add there, batteries, categories of tasks. So I said to you I had one called kitchen renovation project. You could also have one called home maintenance and add a couple of to-dos on there for the future, who's got to do what with regard to home maintenance. These are user-defined fields that you can add, and user entities as well. I haven't actually added any. So that's pretty well much that. The only other things really are the menu options to look at. Showing the clock in the header. You can have night mode enabling or disabling automatically, keep screen on. And you've got some stock setting These are just presets that you really can set up. Your shopping list settings, you've got a couple of things as well. You can show it in the month view calendar, I suppose. Shopping list to stock workflow, automatically do the booking using the last price and amount of a shopping list. Oh, that's by default. So that's what you've got there. Recipe settings, I've already got those showing. For chore settings, when do you want the due soon? You can set how many days ahead of time. Task settings, same thing. Battery settings also. User settings is just the language that you can set, but there are quite a few languages. So like I said, this is not where you set your currency and so on. You can manage users. So this is where you're going to add your family members or whoever else is going to be making use of it. And you'll see there I've got an image. You can set images and photos for each person as well. Reset passwords, that sort of thing. That's where you're going to manage your API keys and API browser. And the barcode scanner testing, you know, there was a setting here somewhere. Oh, this is just to test the barcode scanning, but somewhere I saw there is also a place where you can set the type of barcode. It's got about a good 15 or 20 different types of barcode that you can actually set. And that's basically it. The version I'm using, I see, was updated 2 months ago. So yeah, that really is Grocy. Like I said, you can use as little or as much of it as you want to. It really depends on yourself. I think it's actually got a tremendous amount of useful things that, you know, typically need to be tracked around the house. Like I said, just in my case, first aid kits, critical. You can maybe just use this for your first aid kit, just to keep track of when stuff expires. You know, it's handy for things you've got batteries in that you've got to climb up on a ladder to go and replace. You know, things like that. I think it can be a very, very handy app. So yeah, I hope you found some sort of interest around this, and keep safe and keep well out there, and I'll see you in the next video.